This is me. This is me. Yeah, this is me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You're watching This Is Me. I'm D. Curtis, and I'm sitting here with my old man. Getting to know the old man even more. And when I mean old man, I'm talking about any other person, but someone that you know very well, someone that served, his country really well. There's no other, but, Mr. Joseph Nyuma Boakai. Daddy, welcome, sir. Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you. Thank you for giving me the chance.
Thank you. Thank you. How's everything been?
By the grace of God, it's good. Thank God.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, tonight we're just here to get to know about you. So for someone out there that will come across this video, what would you say, or who is, Joseph Nyuma Boakai?
Joseph Nyuma Boakai is from Wasanga village, which is about 50 minutes drive from Foya
Okay.
and right at the border between Sierra Leone and Liberia.
Very-
Joseph Nyuma Boakai, son of a handicapped mother
Handicapped mother.
uh, who was eager for son to go to school, but had no means. And so Joseph Nyuma Boakai, for some coincidence, they singled him out as someone they thought needed to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
That was evident because right on my leg, salt grass cut me.
Wow.
And people feel traditionally salt grass cutting you is a normal thing. And it may so. And they concluded that this man, I don't think he belonged up country, but they didn't have the means. So I had a mother who had some problem with her toes. I see her losing her toes one by one. And there was no father around, 5 boys. But in our Kitsi tradition, the women name their children. So the name tells you what number you are. So Nyuma is the 5th son.
Right.
So I'm the only one alive now.
So what was it like growing up in Wasanga?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult. But I didn't spend much time in Wasanga. I was in and out
Okay.
because I had to go to school. So my mother had to give me to people to live with, one, and most of them uncles.
Okay.
And it wasn't the most easy life. I remember there was an uncle I was living with. He was so harsh that the the funny thing is, they had these big wooden pen they used to make to do the palm nut. So I wanted to go back to my mother, so they had to put me under that pen so that my uncle would come. He would not see me, and then they would take me back to my mother. Then I ended up again going to Australia to another uncle.
So wait, in order for you to go to visit your mom, they had to hide you from your uncle by putting you
I was
under
running
the
away, not just
you're
visit.
running
I was
away.
just, I was just
So
going.
why were you running away though?
Because of the treatment, and
Okay,
it
I
wasn't
see.
the best of condition.
Okay.
So we ended up going to Australia to another uncle
Right.
who was in Kenema, Australia. He was the head of the forestry department there,
Mm-hmm.
and he was another very, very difficult person. I mean, the beating, the thing, and he wasn't nice to his wife, and so every time he mistreated his wife, she paid back on me. So I was getting double punishment.
Right.
But then, fortunately, my uncle lived with a Fuller man while he was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And this Fuller old man That's where every time we had difficulty living with my uncle, I ran away, went to the old man. There were a group of boys there, and so. But the problem is at my uncle's place,
Right.
feeding was definite because every day at least I would have something to eat. But the fuller old man were many.
Right.
So we had a small bowl, big people, small people, with all the poor food.
So big
And
people and
those
small
days
people
you
all
eat
around
with
you.
your hand. By the time you take two handfuls,
The food finish.
so up to today, I don't chew food because
You
the
just swallow
faster
it.
you swallow, the faster you swallow, the more you
The
eat,
more you eat,
and your head small.
especially your hands small.
So, so if you see me eating, maybe slowly, it means that either I don't like the food or I'm okay.
I
But
see.
once I have food,
You're good.
because it's the way I it came up.
So
And I tell my children,
uh-huh.
I never had breakfast to go to school.
Wow.
They never went without breakfast because those days, breakfast, even after school, by the time you came back from school, they sent you to go break wood.
Right.
So, I mean,
So
you wore
speaking
uniform,
uh-huh.
uh, the trousers, they were tear, and you were tied until you don't even know the color, the original color of
Of the uniform.
of the. But that's the way it went. And when you go to school in the morning, you have to haul water, do this. By the time I went to school, I was always late. Uh, and they had a way that time. You you stood up if you're late
Mm-hmm.
until you're ready, and they'll put you on the back, give you a few lashes before they admitted you. But I went through that several
Wow.
times.
And that's in the
So I
school.
continue, but I was still in school, doing well, until I finally decided to come back to Liberia to my mother.
Let's stay back in Sierra Leone. What school did you attend when you
They
were in the
call it
States?
at that time CE School, Church of England School,
Church of England.
in Canada, way
What
back.
what grade were you in
And
or how
I
old
started my ABC from there,
from there?
and maybe went up to the fourth grade
Okay.
before I moved back to Liberia.
So while you were in Sierra Leone, did you learn Creole or
I speak Mende fluently. I speak Creole. I understand few words of some of the dialects there.
so you still speak
So
Creole
I'm
up
not
to this
lost
to
there.
this
I'm
day?
not lost there. No, no, that very well. I
So
speak.
you sabi talk Creole.
Boy.
You say hey boo.
What,
So you
what
not
you want make I teach you?
I am boy, the man don't bounce for me.
They say picking we not get nanny and daddy and what number right.
I am boy. The man they kill me. Oh, take care with him because they want to create a way to talk. You
So I came to my mom, and then there was an aunt. Her picture is right there.
okay?
She was married to an old man Boakai, who was the only black train operator with LMC.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother decided she would bring me.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked, she, her old mother, and uncle, my father, and, uh, and a half sister. Of course, back home, in tradition, we don't call her half sister, sister of mine, but by father.
Mm-hmm.
So we walked from Foya
Wow,
to Bummy Hills.
for me.
And I don't know how long we took
Was it
because I
no
was very small.
transportation at that time, or you couldn't afford it?
Transportation, I said we walked because there was no road,
No
no.
road.
So we walked to Bumming Hill. I don't know how many weeks.
Wow.
So we got there. I was registered at the United Pentecostal Mission in Bumming Hill, Tottenham. That's where I went to school. And later on, my aunt decided to go back up country. And she insisted that I go back with her.
Mm-hmm.
I had wanted to remain, maybe go to the mission, ask the missionaries to stay with them.
Mm-hmm.
But my aunt said, I must go. And we went back. And while we were there, she went and settled somewhere in Sierra Leone. and she had put a little table market for me to sell.
So when you're selling table
But
market,
but
what?
I told her that's not what I wanted to do. So one day my father went to visit, and I told my aunt I was done. I want to go back to my mom,
Mhm.
and there we left. Went back to my mom. Fortunately, there was another uncle who used to be in Firestone, overseer for the rubber tappers in Division 9, and his wife was visiting up country.
Mhm.
So they had to take me all the way to her. We walked again to Firestone. Those days there was no
No transportation.
to walk again to Firestone. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when I got there, I think they had a rule that when an overseer is losing workers, you can lose your job also.
Mhm.
By the time I got there, he had lost his, they call it first boy, his head boy.
Uh-huh.
And so they wrote my name, his place to tap rubber.
That was when you started working as a robot tapper.
So, well, I didn't know how to tap rubber. So that means in the morning, he, his wife, myself will go. And while the wife is cleaning the cups,
Right.
and the two of us, we tapping
Right.
because the work had to be done, and they knew I couldn't do it.
Right.
I did that for 2 months. But you know, the way the rubber tappers carry the rubber with that thing,
On the back.
you know, where the two buckets,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't do it. So what I did, I put the latex in the bucket and I put it on my head. And one day I just fell and the whole latex wasted on me.
Oh wow.
I had to run to the creek because you know latex after a certain
Right.
time.
Right. Have to get it off real quick.
So I worked for 2 months, and the money I got was just enough to buy two pairs of short trousers and two shirts and pay my way to come to Monrovia. 'Cause I wanted to go back to Bummie Hills.
Right.
Fortunately, I met a friend of mine
Mhm.
who was running the clubhouse for the company. And actually, this friend of mine
Mhm.
died some years ago. He happened to be the fellow whose daughter just Salif married, Sikardine.
Mhm.
So I met Sikardine with a pickup. And he said, "Where you coming from?" I said, "I came from up country. I want to go back to Bummie." So we got in the pickup, went to Bummie Hills. And then I went to the mission and offered myself to the missionaries. I want to stay on the mission.
I know you're a married man now.
Very much so.
Yeah. So let's talk about your wife
My
and your
wife,
children
my
and
wife is from Bummie County.
mhm.
And as I tell you, I attended the United Pentecost Mission, but I didn't meet her there.
How did you guys meet?
Uh, I came to CWA.
Okay.
That's another story completely.
We
I
here for
came
it.
to
This is great.
CWA, and while I was at CWA, it's interesting. My wife was attending Lakiri Mission,
Okay.
and at CWA, I was the class president for the 11th grade,
Mm.
and we had a talent show, and I had to send some students to go to Lakiri to participate in the talent show as the president of the class.
Okay. I was expecting you to say you perform some kind of thing and you
No,
got brought up
we
on stage.
sent somebody who is dead now, a friend of mine who was a magician,
Okay.
another fellow who was uh, using joke making, and another fellow who was very talented. Yeah, some of them are around. And I sent them to Lakiri to participate. But then I was at the boys' dorm, CW, as a student. And interestingly, they came in the night and said, "We won the first prize." I said, "Wow, won the first prize."
Congratulations. You selected the
And
right
by
people.
that time, my wife, she must have been the head of her class
Okay.
uh, at the Kiri. So they brought a big pack of biscuit. That was the first prize. And I didn't even wait to take up the wrapping.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw on the biscuit, dog biscuit in 5 varieties. So,
Mm.
wow. So,
Wow.
the people would send a dog biscuit for the first prize. And we were furious. The next morning, went to class. We had a class meeting. At that time, Gwendolyn Pierre, who was married to Bobby McKinney, was my class secretary.
Right.
And we wrote a letter, protest letter to Lakiri.
About the dog biscuit.
So on the delegation was Mrs. Boakai now.
Right.
They came to beg. And so they came first to ask her to participate, and they came to beg. At that time, I was attending the university.
Uh-huh.
Now, we are graduated from CWA. Then she got to meet me on campus, and I could see that she had a crush on me.
You sure she don't want?
Yeah, she,
You sure she don't want to
I
crush?
even got to go into that. But then we started, yeah. But
So me,
I
I want to go back.
I was,
How you picked up that she had a crush?
yeah, and I don't know. I was, for some reason, I had always been very shy.
Okay.
So even while I was at CWA, I never really, because I was focused. Because the first thing, my going to CWA was, got the van because I didn't have the money, and I went as janitor,
Right.
and I knew CWA was very strict, so I didn't have time to get involved in girlfriend this thing. And furthermore, I was there moving from one position from janitor in the library, from there to the business office. So I know the girls used to want to be friendly, but I was keeping focus.